So they'll start to pile in now, because once we lower the drawbridge, they can actually get in. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're coming in now.
Yeah.
We've got some good people in today. Good lineup. Very good lineup today.
Well, I got a hand up from Martin, so I'm going to allow him to talk, all right?
Okay.
Martin, I've now got you so that you should be able to speak. I've not put you on screen at the moment.
That's great. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Afternoon, Martin.
Hello, Martin.
We're all good to go?
We're just giving it another 60 seconds, because
Yeah, of course.
People normally pile in about midday, and it takes a minute or so to get them all on board.
Of course.
We're at about 50% of those we're expecting at the moment. We've had about 60 people sign up, you see.
Excellent.
We've got about 30 on board, so they're coming in all the time.
Well, Mike's a big draw, you know.
I know. I thought it was after my appearance on Points West last night.
Were you on there last night?
I was.
You are.
You missed it, did you?
You were on there at lunchtime as well, and in the morning. You had 3 slots yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought they'd get you back on. They'd put you on because construction's playing such a big part in getting back to work.
I was telephoned first thing, and they said, "Can we do it straight away?" So away we went.
Yeah, oh, excellent.
The embarrassing thing was, I was just explaining to Mike and Howard. We tried to do it in my office where I am now, but the Wi-Fi wasn't very good, so I had to move closer to the router, which is in my old office, which is now my granddaughter's bedroom. And
right.
In the background,
So
row of teddy bears in the background. Yeah. But there we go.
Well, we're up to 32 now.
36 in all. Should we make a start?
I'm going to demote your microphone, Martin. I'll bring you back on later. Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, I did want to explain that it's okay.
Well, you can. No, you're more than welcome.
Well, I just want somebody to say that this is part, just to remind people that this is, we normally have our thought leadership session in our P&P theme group meeting, but on this occasion, we're sharing it with you, Howard, and the Leaders Meets team.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we'll kick off then, and I'll say on behalf of all the groups that host these webinars, which is Constructing Excellence Southwest, Constructing Excellence Midlands, Constructing Excellence Wales, the Housing Forum, and the Structural Timber Association. Welcome to our Tuesday webinar. These midday webinars on Tuesdays and Fridays have now become a regular occurrence, and for many people are seen as, if you like, part of the furniture during lockdown, which is great. We've been getting anywhere between 3 dozen and 100 or so people viewing on any one occasion. That is fabulous. Today, once again, I thank John and Howard for their sterling work in putting these together, but in particular, I welcome Michael and thank you for giving up your valuable time. Michael is a well-known face within Constructing Excellence Southwest and a very important member of our procurement and productivity group. And as Martin's just pointed out, this is an extension of a theme group meeting, which we will be going on to later on. So when we finish here, we're going straight into a meeting. And I should say that because of that meeting, we are going to finish sharp today at 5 to 1. 5 to 1 absolute latest, because we have to move from this Zoom medium to a Microsoft Teams medium. Just by way of a sort of an advert, on Friday, the subject is understanding stimulus packages and incentives available. And we've got a team of speakers from Ernst & Young, so another good one for Friday. But right now, we're going to talk about the incredibly important issue of working collaboratively with your supply chain, which is why, if you like, constructing excellence is actually in place. That's our DNA, our raison d'etre is all about collaborative working. And I can think of no one better to lead us on this subject than Michael Chaney from Willmott Dixon. So Michael, thank you. And I hand over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. So, as you said, collaboration is key, and I'd like to share a short presentation just to give a little bit around the journey that Willmott Dixon have had over the past 7 or 8 weeks, what's gone on, where we're at, and then hopefully stimulate some good discussion from that. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that the screen's loading up. So firstly, thank you to Andrew and Martin and Leaders Meet for asking me to partake in this today and share Willmott Dixon's sort of position at this time. I myself am supply chain manager for Willmott Dixon in Wales in the West. Willmott Dixon has 6 construction divisions across the UK, and we have a supply chain manager in each, and essentially we look after the regional needs of the business. We look to align our relationships in the right way with our partners. So a very quick bit of history regarding Willmott Dixon, because it really does set the key factors for how we've done what we've done over the last few weeks. So the business started in 1852 with John Willmott as the founder. Following on from that, we now have Rick Willmott leading the business. Our coup within construction is John Waterman, who has over 30 years of service. Our MD within Wales in the West is Neil Stevens, who's been leading us for over 12 years. And many of the MDs across the country have similar or longer service as well. And it's that consistency throughout the heads of the business that enabled us to have a clear position and an approach, which we've established based on trust. Very early on in the process, our board of directors issued a statement, a clarification, and the intention of this was to ensure that we maintain business continuity first and foremost. We kept our projects running, we endeavoured to deliver our commitments. Willmott Dixon is key in driving their people to feel empowered. They always ask us to be innovative in what we do. They always ask us to look at how we can improve in the way that we work and the way that our departments are run, and to keep moving forward. They encourage agile working, and obviously as part of the challenge with this crisis, home working has become the norm for many of our non-site based people. But we've used systems such as Teams, Skype, Trello, to ensure that our communication is as efficient as it can be right across the country. And from a national supply chain team, we've certainly become more effective in the way we share information, the way that we work together, and that will certainly take us forward moving well. And the other thing that Willmott Dixon used was a system called Slido, and the key element for Slido was to ensure that our people had a voice direct to the board, direct to our MD to ask questions, and on a weekly basis our MD would answer that back. The initial intentions that Willmott Dixon set out to ensure was that we could reassure our customers, we could reassure our people, and that we could reassure our supply chain partners. In Wales and West, we established clear communication lines. We made sure that for all of the strands from our partners, our communication manager had a strategy that we all understood, it was clear on, and the MD became front and center in our business to give that assurance, to give that feeling of connection. As supply chain manager, I act as the secondary engagement under Neil, And the intention there is that I can provide a feedback loop to our board and help them to understand the challenges that are taking place, help them to understand the emotions and the feelings within our supply chain, and see the big picture challenges that we've had to face. And we ensured that for each of those, we had a communication plan to make sure that all three of our key stakeholders were helped to understand where we were going and helped to enable to speak to us to discuss what was going on. We tried to ensure that at all times our communication was clear and balanced. We wanted to make sure that it didn't overwhelm or confuse. And we made sure that we gave regular and transparent communications for all. The intention of it was that we reassure all that Willmott Dixon as a business, as we entered the crisis, were financially secure. We had a healthy pipeline of work and we had many repeat customers. And again, that has enabled us to have the right conversations that we needed. Critically, we also, as a business, put great priority in ensuring that our commercial and our accounts departments were prioritised in maintaining their service so that we could ensure our total commitment to prompt payments for all of our partners. On site, obviously, there was a lot of action taken. Each of our sites went on pause for roughly 24 hours, but within the business, there's a huge amount of work that went on. We ensured that at all times we fully adhered to the Construction Leadership Council site operating procedures. We made sure that we fully assessed all of our sites and put in place appropriate distance measures. But this has only really been possible because of the support of our supply chain. We have stringent monitoring systems in place to ensure that our people and our supply chain continue to comply with the site-wide social distancing measures. And where that's not possible for workers to distance themselves from each other, but the work we deem as essential, we've got specific risk assessment processes in place. We make sure that we review in depth if there are other ways of doing it, but if it is essential, then we ensure that the correct PPE, the correct RPE is undertaken. And it's always done ensuring that we're under the guidance of our health and safety teams to make sure that we're engaging and working in the right way. Further to that, we ensured that we complied with all the additional guidance as well, which was set out in version 2 and has obviously evolved. And that meant many different conversations. So we had to speak to our supply chain partners to make sure that we all understood the avoidance of public transport, the avoidance of shared vans, the avoidance of people travelling in groups to site and from site, so that we were all doing all we can to protect those most vulnerable. We ensured that we understood, both in terms of our people and also our supply chain, those people that were high risk family members or had high risk family members, so that we could again protect in the right way. We ensured we use 60+ hand sanitizer across all of our sites extensively. We made sure that we managed working groups. We amended our compulsory PPE requirements to include goggles at this time for all on site. And we redirected our resources by introducing very early on additional managers specifically focused on ensuring safe working practices and social distancing across the sites. This coupled with bringing in additional welfare facilities and ultimately listening to those people on site and listening to those coming to site to ensure that we understood the challenges and plan to avoid issues and potential friction. In the early days of the pandemic, our productivity on site dropped to around 30 to 40%, but we never stopped in total. Obviously, the message from the board had been clear, and our intent was to find solutions and find ways to do this. Now we're at over 70% productivity across our sites, and whether that's the new norm, whether there's still other efficiencies to be found, there has to be. But it's certainly going to be a different way of working for some time, and we've all got our eyes open to that. Our supply chain strategy within Willmott Dixon is better together. It focuses on building meaningful relationships founded on trust, respect, and the desire for all of our partners to have sustainable success. The way that we've behaved and conducted ourselves before has meant that during this crisis, we have been open and honest with our intentions, and our supply chain have been able to speak openly about their concerns and their challenges that they face without fear of being penalised, without fear of being criticised, but with an understanding that we all just want to understand and improve and support each other to succeed. And the crisis has shown that the trust that we have with our partners means that there really is a yes-if attitude to problem solving, which is something that we focus a lot on within Willmott Dixon. We have had partners challenging us for staying open. We have been able to listen and work with them to find the right solutions. This has included adapting programs, adapting working practices, changing critical paths where it was feasible to do so. Some decisions were certainly not in our control, and where that was the case, then we had to work around the issues and we had to find solutions. But we had a proactive approach to speaking to our partners, to encourage them to help us find solutions or to remobilize in a safe way without our relationship being built on the solid foundations and the consistent message that it has been. We couldn't have had the discussions because it would have been difficult for them to see that all we were trying to do was to be honest and understand their problems and them understand ours, and us find the right way to approach things moving forward. We actively engaged to understand their concerns around resource to help secure solutions for them, and in particular that revolved around material procurement. A lot of our supply chain struggled to find key materials, but because of our links on a national level, we've been able to mitigate that in a number of cases. But at all times we've done it following the government guidance. We've done it making sure that health and safety is right at #1 priority and absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to the way that we behave and the way that we need to operate throughout this time. So just to reiterate, the strength of our relationships with our customers, our supply chain and our consultants really has been our overriding success in the fact that we've been able to work through these systems, again, introducing to our supply chain different methods of communication, different ways of engaging, looking at different options in how we can succeed together and just adapt the way that we've traditionally worked together. So in terms of the future, we obviously are looking at off-site fabrication far more. We're looking at understanding the training needs of our partners, both in terms of on-site and away from sites, understanding how we can work as effectively together, understanding how we can work as efficiently together as we can, and how we can ensure success for all. We need to understand the strengths of those around us. We all offer different ingredients that together can ensure success, and we need to be pulling in the same direction together. We need to make sure we're listening to each other, we learn together, and we support each other at all times. And Willmott Dixon's commitment to mental first aiders, internally, but also with our supply chain, demonstrates the understanding and in part how we can strive to ensure we understand the individual's needs to ensure the team's success. Because we all understand what we're trying to do in terms of building buildings, but we don't necessarily understand what's going on behind the scenes. And without the right relationships, we can't ensure success. We also realise, as Willmott Dixon, that we will make errors along the way, and we've got to make sure that we learn from them. We have to be brave enough to be challenged and questioned. But my final slide before I open up to hopefully a discussion around what's going on and what we're doing, hopefully demonstrates the feedback we're getting from our supply chain, from our consultants and from our customers, is that our clarity in our approach, our openness to discussion, our engagement has meant that we've been able to pass confidence on to others and enable others to see the wood for the trees, I suppose, as we go through these very changing times, understanding what's going on, understanding what the ultimate aim is, the ultimate goal is, but also prioritizing the right things at the right time to enable construction to keep moving forward. So on that note, I will cease to share my screen. I thank you for listening to my introduction, and I hope that it's given you all something to think about and bring forward now. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Michael, thanks very much. We've got some questions that come up on the menu. Would you like me to read them out and you can concentrate on the questions, or do you want to read them and do them? Okay. Right, the first question we've got, someone says it's a comment really, but I actually think it's got a quite interesting sort of subset text to it. It seems that the trust you have developed upstream and downstream has been key to dealing with the crisis. Would you like to make any comment on that?
It's absolutely critical, and the comment is absolutely spot on. We within Willmott Dixon work very hard to understand all of the people that we engage with, from our customers to our consultants to our supply chain, understanding different people's drivers, understanding people's priorities, finding a way to align intentions is key. And all of that has to be built on trust. All of that has to be built on our bond and our word. And fortunately, and it's probably why I work for Willmott Dixon, but ultimately from the very top with Rick Willmott, that transcends through Willmott Dixon, and it enables us to genuinely show that to our partners.
Thanks very much. The next question I've got is, good to see that you've been able to use your influence in sourcing materials. Will this be a feature of your supply chain management strategy moving forward?
100%. Part of building on better and better together, which is our strategy within the business, which was introduced circa 4 years ago, involved forming key allegiances and alliances with what we term mandated partners within the business. So these are partners that we understand their alignment with our needs, our wishes. They're partners that we feel represent the best intentions for our customers, and the best intention and protection for us as a business to ensure we're putting the right products, the right solutions into the building. And those links have really demonstrated through the last period that we can find ways to resolve things. The other thing that I would say, again, related to suppliers and our strategy with them, is that I mentioned it in the presentation, but Willmott Dixon put payment as a key element to what we do in terms of ensuring the cash flow of our partners. And I think that historical position has really helped us have the right ability to speak to supply chain partners, because they value us as a business and they see that we've got their best intentions in place.
Thanks very much. I've got another couple of questions here. One's quite long. It's from Paul Reed. Then I've got Emma. I think Emma Osmondson. So I think what I'm going to ask is, I'm going to open up both of their cameras and their microphones, and maybe it starts to get a little bit more interactive. So just bear with me. I'll open Paul's first. So Paul, I've now promoted you to a panelist. This is Paul Reed. So you should be able to open your camera. You should be able to now also your microphone. You'll be able to pitch your question directly to Michael.
Oh, you put me in an interesting background as well.
Hi, Paul.
Hello there. Hi. Yeah, so I was just sort of thinking about client and contractor behaviour, and we've got some instances where we've got house builders we're working with, and they're clearly going to be struggling in terms of sales. So so cash flows around big sites are a challenge. So we're looking to work with those people. The majority of people the contractors we're working with are being open and honest, and we've had that dialogue going ever since. And we've just got that one where there seems to be a little bit of saber rattling, and looking to position and reposition. Just wondering what your thoughts are in relation to what's the sort of balance of behaviour. Do you think that 10% of people will, be out of kilter with your aspirations and the majority will? What's your general sense?
That's quite a tricky one to answer, Paul, to be honest. And as Willmott Dixon supply chain manager, we do put a lot of groundwork into forming the relationships in the first place. So I don't feel that I can particularly answer for other sort of contractors. But what I would say is that with this problem, with this challenge, we have to look at all avenues of what can be done to support businesses. So to give an example of things that we've been doing, we've been talking with our works partners, our subcontractors, to understand whether there are concerns in terms of material resources, both in terms of cash flow, in which case we may look to procure the materials and agree with them in terms of how they will install those works to remove that risk from them and us. And at the same time, understand, really try and get beneath the skin of understanding where they are. Ultimately, what we do is based on us putting an element of trust to them, but we have to do that in a measured way. So we have to monitor, we have to track, we have to understand. And if our partners aren't open with us, we're unable to help them. So it really comes with that sort of initial olive branch and asking the questions, looking at what's happening in 6 to 8 weeks time, what are your concerns then as opposed to just now, so that we can try and get ahead of problems and we can try and give people more clarity in terms of moving forward, what can be achieved and what can be done. Because I think for our supply chain partners, the hardest part at times is looking more than just that week or two ahead. And that can really weigh them down. So what we're trying to do is to help them to see moving forward what can be achieved and how we can help them get there. But at the same time, it's got to be done, just to go back to your question, it's got to be done in the right way. I'm an ex-quantity surveyor myself within the business and within others, and I understand that we all have to make sure that we're making educated decisions and educated choices throughout this, rather than putting undue risk anywhere along the line if we can.
So intelligence gathering is a key thing, and making assessments as to is this what good looks like, or am I receiving something that's a bit more closed, in which case you respond accordingly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I've brought on Emma Osmondson, so if she wants to open her mic, she can now get engaged in a question direct with Michael. Thanks. Welcome on, Emma.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Michael. Really informative. So Paul's picked up a couple of my points. So I was interested to know how you were perhaps supporting your subcontractors. And it was really encouraging to see how you're doing that in terms of potentially helping them with cash flow, with procuring materials and the like. Obviously, the Cabinet's guidance note, PPM documentation, has required contractors to work or have very close dialogue with their clients. Obviously, you've demonstrated, fantastic collaboration across your supply chain. How have you found your clients and being able to collaborate with them? And what measures have you sought from your clients in terms of assisting your own, commercial position at this moment in time?
I'll have to give my apologies there, Emma. As supply chain manager for the business, that doesn't sit within my remit.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. In regards,
I'll give you another question. I'll give you another question then. So what my other question would be, from your perspective, what do you see what you're currently experiencing in terms of enhancing the culture within your organisation? How much do you see this, dare I say, this current pandemic as an opportunity for yourselves and Willmott Dixon, and how do you see your culture kind of modifying or expanding or changing the way in which you do business in the future?
I suppose first and foremost, what it's done is to reaffirm within us that our approach is going in the right direction. The engagement that we've had from our supply chain partners and as I understand it, from our customers, is that all of those that we're engaging with believe that we've got their best intentions at heart, at the same time as trying to make sure that we're a successful business, because ultimately it's what we're all involved within this industry to do and to, you know, form success and move forward. I think what it's also done is it's forced people that maybe historically have been a bit skeptical around technology to find that actually that works very well. So certainly moving forward, I think it will be far more prevalent in what we do in terms of our engagement, and probably mean that actually we face-to-face catch up with people more regularly, when previously we maybe would have just sent an email or a phone call. And I think, again, from a relationship point of view, that helps. And I think the key in terms of the future as Willmott Dixon as a business, I think that our engagement and the way that we've worked to try and find solutions and try and find safe ways of continuously moving forward exhibits the sort of learning environment and the learning culture that sits well and truly through Willmott Dixon, and hopefully I think is also being picked up by our partners, be that our customers or our supply chain, which hopefully will evolve and grow more as we push through this. I think the key thing is not to get complacent, be that in terms of our on-site health and safety approach, or in terms of what's going on in terms of looking at the next 6 weeks, the next 8 weeks. You know, there's a lot of partners, both in terms of house building and also in terms of tier one contractors who are picking up pace again. And that will bring fresh material challenges, that will bring fresh resource challenges. The other learning thing that I think probably from Willmott Dixon's point of view I'm hearing quite consistently is that actually this is stripped back elements of what we've maybe been doing for the last few years. And actually we've found some real efficiencies in it and probably improvements. And it's probably helping us to understand the key drivers for our people, essentially.
Great, thank you. Nothing like a good crisis.
Well, so it would appear.
Do you have any more questions, Emma?
No.
If not, I've got an anonymous one I'll put in. Do you select your customers as carefully as you select your supply chain?
Yes, Willmott Dixon do. I don't know what the stat would be now, and apologies because this is historical and therefore not really of any significance, except I remember when I joined Willmott Dixon, which was over 10 years ago, Neil Stevens, our MD, standing up in front of our people, one of our sort of 6 monthly people meeting, and saying that in the 10 years prior to that, and at that point we were an £80 million regional business, but in the 10 years prior we'd worked with 21 customers in total. And I would suspect that number, even though we've now grown into a £200 million plus turnover Wales and West division, that number would not be massively more, because yes, there's a huge amount of groundwork that goes into forming the right relationships with our customers, finding customers that we see as aligned to the way that Willmott Dixon want to engage and want to work. And there's quite a core strength coming down from Rick Willmott and Joel Mortimer and Neil Stevens to ensure that the right decisions are made for the right reasons.
Okay, I hope that answers that question for that individual. If not, we can come back to it. Martin Jones, I've opened your mic and your camera because you have a couple of questions. I'd wonder whether you'd like to ask those and get involved in the conversation with Michael. So over to you, Martin. I think he's probably just... He's opened his microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Martin. Yes.
Great. I've actually forgotten what the questions were I asked, but I've got another question to ask, because I was wondering if, Mike, you could maybe elaborate a little bit more on how the sort of internal changes and internal preparedness that you had to go through in order to embark on your supply chain management strategy. Lots of people talk about partnering and collaboration and so on, but if you haven't got the internal within your own organization all lined up, it doesn't really work. So could you share a little bit with us about how you went about that internal preparedness?
Yeah, I certainly can, Martin. So I've mentioned a couple of times, but Better Together is the strategy that as a supply chain team we introduced under the Building on Better strategy that John Waterman put in place in 2016 for our construction division. And the key essence around it was probably becoming more human. Making Better Together a successful strategy depended on being able to put across our intentions to our supply chain. But for that to happen, we had to do a lot of work, as you say, Martin, in terms of internal preparedness. And that involved a lot of work with our own people to ensure that we were consistent in our terminology, to be sure that we were consistent in our approach. Willmott Dixon has a long-standing internal culture, and it's extending that out. And that culture has to go from our site managers and our site teams all the way up to our board and everybody in between in terms of consistency. Because if we're not consistent in the way that we engage, it falls down. As we know, everybody always remembers the bad bit. So you can do as much good as you want, but if one thing's not quite in place in the right way, that does far more damage. So we needed to be open, we needed to be clear in what we were doing, we needed to engage with our people in a very extensive way, really trying to get them to understand the why as to what we were looking to introduce into the business and enhance. A lot of what we've done under Better Together was already in place, but it needed to be brought out. It needed to be pushed. It needed to be given fresh momentum to ensure that people could see it and touch it and go with it. And that's enabled us across the board and fairly consistently across the entire country as Willmott Dixon Construction, which is over £1 billion turnover sort of business. It's enabled us to be consistent as best we can across all of those 6 divisions to give people the confidence that what we're saying is the way that we are. And there's real commitment behind that in every strand of our business to ensure that we are working together and trying to see the bigger picture as to the why of what we're doing, rather than just the on-site day-to-day sort of challenges that are faced.
Anything further, Martin? Your 2 questions.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. There was just one of the barriers that I often hear about in terms of introducing supply chain management in construction is often the conflict between the production arm of the company and the kind of financial commercial aspects of the company. So was that a particular area? You know, you're a quantity surveyor by background yourself, so was this a particular area that needed focusing on?
Yes, it was, but I think it was more about ultimately within the business, we're all employed to deliver a service, to deliver a job for Willmott Dixon, for whoever it is that we work for. So to that end, what happened outside of the supply chain team was that it was recognised under Building on Better that all of our sort of commitments and our targets and our intentions needed to be better aligned. And therefore, as a business, what we've done is to refocus so that we now try and look at as much as possible that as a business we are one team. So we no longer necessarily talk about pre-con and we talk about ops, we talk about customer care, we now look at that transition through, and we look at accountability and responsibility for the success of a project from when it starts to when it ends as being a shared success. So our operations teams get involved far earlier in pre-con to make sure that there's joined up decisions being made. Our pre-con teams are involved far more into the operations stage to make sure they understand the result of the discussions that were had early so that they can be carried through. And all of that adds up to making sure that we are all aligned in wanting the same thing, which ultimately is a successful business and successful projects and repeat business. So we've got a sustainable product and a sustainable business to take forward with our supply chain partners and our customers.
Okay, thanks. I've got an anonymous question here. Do you have formal collaboration programs in place, like ISO 44001? And how do you work with SMEs to understand the processes and approach so that they can learn from the relationship?
So we do have a vast number of ISOs within the business. We do have many different processes and accreditations. And with our supply chain, we do a lot of work to try and understand what can truly benefit them. What we don't want to be doing at any point is encouraging our supply chain to invest in things that we don't believe will help them. We do see particularly things like ISO 9001, 14001, 18001, which I appreciate as we come in, I think 44001. We do see the value that they bring in enabling us to see that our partners are sustainable businesses. Those we see as key indicators to companies that are very well set up behind the scenes, because on a day-to-day basis, what we see is that our partners meet our needs, be that in the pre-con, be that on-site, be that post-completion. What we historically struggle to maybe get the feel for is how well behind the scenes those businesses are being run. We use various different things, but to try and track that and try and understand it. But we do see things like the ISOs as being key. And what we have within our business is the Better Together Academy. We have trade forums, we have relationship managers, which means that we really spend time targeting our key partners, targeting our key trades, understanding what works for them and what works for us. What we try not to do is just to set up our own goal and then try and drive people down what suits us. What we try and do is to hear what works for our supply chain, what their challenges are, what hurdles we're putting in their way. And then when we understand those hurdles, then we can look at what we need to get from it and what they need to get from it. And then we can try and make sure that we are as efficient as we can be together to ensure success.
Okay, thanks very much. I've got a question for Pawina, but I've now opened her ability to ask you the question live with a camera. So Pawina, please join us and ask your question of Michael.
Hi, yes, sorry.
Caught you out.
No, when you opened me up, all the questions disappeared. So forgive me if the wording's not exactly as I
Would you like me to remind you of your question?
Yes,
I can see it.
Yes.
Well, the question you asked is, do you think the Willmott Dixon reaction to the challenges of the current period will result in any long-term changes to your business? That's what you asked.
I mean, I was just sort of thinking that there's been quite a lot of changes in the way that you have to work. Obviously, as you mentioned before, resulting in now sort of a 70% efficiency from what you were before. And I just wondered what you think might be the long-term consequences of that, both to the way that you're working and obviously to the sort of financial stability of the business, if you can only work at 70% of what you were before.
From a financial stability point of view, I think that we're in as good a place as anybody to deal with the changes and to come out of it hopefully stronger. From a business approach and a business practice point of view, I think the construction historically is a very slow evolving industry. I think that we talk about all sorts of innovations, but they rarely actually see the light of day, because ultimately people revert back to what they've done before because they know that it delivers, even if it is a compromised solution. I think what this is doing is pushing the benefits of innovation. As an industry, we've talked about offsite for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and plenty more than that. But has it extensively succeeded? Has there been challenges? I think the combination of considerations when we're working out the best way to deliver things that mean that, particularly from a safe working practice point of view, those conversations are only going to get stronger. a lot of the time, I think probably offsite doesn't happen because of the commercial challenges and not being able to tangibly see the program benefit or confidently back it. Whereas I think that there will be greater drive to explore that further, because obviously the working environment on site can be as safe as it possibly can be, but a controlled environment in an offsite manufacturing facility clearly offers additional benefits.
Really,
did that answer your question, Karina?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's really interesting, because a couple of things sort of come to mind with that. I mean, do you think that is going to push forward the sort of MMC modular type agenda, and is it going to limit, because of the fact that might become a preferred way of working, it might have cost advantages? Do you think that will push clients into making those choices when perhaps they wouldn't have done before?
I think it will certainly push them into considering it more. Whether they actually ultimately do it or not, we in Willmott Dixon, we look at more of a kit of parts approach to the sort of standardized construction,
right.
Because that still enables the flexibility of delivering what customers are actually after. I think the biggest challenge when we look at a lot of offsite is that there are limitations to the shapes or the dimensions or the size, and therefore there's maybe too many compromises often needed to enable it to be considered. Whereas I think that there are other ways to think about it. As I say, from a kit of parts point of view, a standardization in that way can still enable us to get to where a customer needs to be potentially, but it just needs a little bit of different thinking.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And one other quick question, if I may, while I've got the opportunity. This might be a bit left field, but do you see more robots on site?
I think it's quite a long way away. We trialled an exo vest in the last couple of years within our LCA, which we imported from America to try and Construction Excellence saw it in, and I think that's the stepping stone to it. But apologies, not sure what that was. I think it's probably a long way off. Ultimately, that probably is the long-term position, but I think it's an awful long way away yet.
Okay, no, lovely. Thank you very much.
Hello, Howard. Are you still there?
Is he the one who fell
Sorry.
off?
No, sorry, I didn't open my microphone up. Thanks, Purina.
Could we bring Emily? Could we bring
Yeah,
Emily into play?
Emily is there, ready to play. I just hope she can remember her question. If not, I've got it up on my screen. Emily? Yep, she's there. Open your microphone up. You need to push it quite hard. I forgot to do that myself.
Hello, actually it's not Emily, it's Mary using Emily's login. So hello. Yes, my question was, I suppose, following on from Purwina, a bit downgraded from Purwina's about robots. It's about whether you're using digital technology on site to carry out inspections, and whether you will be thinking of that going forward.
I'm sure we will be. We do use VR extensively in terms of enabling customers to see building. Right. We use it in terms of being able to set out and plan and model. We use photographic records. We use field view. We use many different systems to track. I know that we have been using things like WhatsApp call and FaceTime and that sort of thing to enable valuations to be carried out. Yeah. And sort of checks in terms of quality and maintaining records. So I'm sure all of the ways that we typically traditionally have sort of done things will be looked at and evaluated and moved forward. As I sort of said before, even things like this, even things like Zoom and Teams and Skype, there's always been this fear that it's okay, but it doesn't really resolve it. Whereas I think, to be blunt, people have realized that things like design meetings, things like team meetings actually can quite successfully work over this medium. And certainly, you know, for us as a business, and no different with other main contractors that I've dealt with in the past, I think the days of where hopefully we don't necessarily understand the drivers of, for example, our architects who have probably set their bill on an amount of hours. Realistically, we don't want them spending 50% of those hours in the car traveling to site, when actually design meetings could be done very successfully in this way. Maybe 3 out of 4, you know, it's unlikely to just be always over a computer, but there are very definitely efficiencies that we can all make to make us more effective in our use of our resources.
Thank you.
That answer your question? Thanks very much. I've got one anonymous question here. How much impact has the work from home requirement impacted on your teams? Do you feel collaboration is increased during the pandemic? And what positives have you realised as a business?
I'm somebody who likes meeting people and who likes, you know, touching skin, I suppose, without wishing to put that the wrong way. So I think that there's certainly been a loss in terms of some engagement, but I think that the benefits and the pros probably well outweigh that. I think from the way that our supply chain team is set up within the business, I'm the regional supply chain manager. I have some people who work for me, but we also have a national team, and that's headed up by our supply chain director, Steve Watson. And certainly the last 7-8 weeks, our communication with those teams and also with our other divisions has got stronger and stronger. As I say, the use of Trello boards online has been a great success. The use of Teams in terms of the way we share best practice, we share like leads, we share issues, we find solutions. I think that can only get stronger and get broader as we extend that out to our supply chains as well. So yeah, did that answer the question, Andrew?
Emily, has that answered your question? If not, open your mic and keep going.
That wasn't Emily, that was anonymous, Howard. That
it was anonymous. Okay, sorry about that. If it doesn't answer the question for anonymous, please put your hand up. If anyone's got any more questions for Michael, you can raise your hand, which you'll find on the toolbar. We've got about 4 minutes left if we're going to sharply make it. So there is time for a question or more. If not, I'm going to hand back to Andrew, and I'll thank Michael. I'm sure Andrew will do the same. So back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much, Michael. I think all of us listening in have found that immensely valuable. Absolutely epitomises what constructing excellence has been all about since the Latham and Egan reports of the 90s. And it's really good to see what we've been espousing in practice. So congratulations, Michael, for what you're achieving within Willmott Dixon. I hope that we're able to take what you're doing as case studies and communicate that outwards and onwards, because that's what we're all about, learning and sharing best practice.
Andrew?
Yes.
Mike and I have written a case study.
Brilliant. You're ahead of me, Martin, as always.
Which I'm sure Mike would agree, we're very happy to share with everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
If we can get that out on social media and in our newsletter for June, that would be fabulous, because this is what it's all about. And I think we're all realising that we need to look at what's happened during COVID-19 and make sure that coming out of this situation, we don't have the same industry that went in. We need to be within an industry that takes account of net zero, zero carbon, quality, compliance, health and well-being, digital and off-site technologies, and so on, fair payments. All these things we've been grappling with for 2 decades or more. And I think now is the real opportunity for us to move forward with a brave new industry that we all really know is right and proper. So Michael, thank you for that. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Howard and John, thank you for hosting it. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, this Friday we have another webinar with Ernst & Young, Understanding Stimulus Packages and incentives available. So hopefully we're bringing you a wide variety of topics that are valuable for your business. Those of us that are now about to go into the productivity and procurement theme group, I will see you in 5 minutes on Microsoft Teams. To the rest of you, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
With Andrew, take care.
Hi, Michael. It's Howard here again. Could you let me have a copy of your slides you showed today so that we can post them on our site? People have asked if they could have it. So I've told them come to our site. Many thanks indeed. You answered an interesting number of questions. I've been involved in trying to help organisations for 30 years collaborate and partner, and you certainly mentioned a lot of the good things. So I'd be interested in another chat sometime if you've got the opportunity.
Absolutely, more than happy to, Howard. I mean, what the key to our success is that it is a joined up message right from the very top, and it enables us to really, succeed as individuals within the team. And I think that's the greatest strength that is being had from what we've done historically to where we are now.
Yeah, that's super. Okay, I'll let you get on because are you going on to this meeting?
I am.
I'll let you get on. Thank you very much.
No
Have a great day.
Cheers. Take care.
Thanks very much. Bye.